year is 1980. Japan is getting ready to enter its greatest economic boom, and a young, up-and-coming mangaka named Rumiko Takahashi is living in a 150 square foot messy apartment with her two assistants, often sleeping in a closet due to the cramped space. Although this is a tough time, the young writer has already enjoyed her first taste of success in the manga world with a series she called Urusei Yatsura, and was eager to hit the world with what will become a new classic, a far more grounded work, this time aimed at college students, that focus on everyday life, love, and the hardships of adulthood. She looked at her life now, how difficult it was, even though she'd had some success thus far with her first release, and she remembered her college days, where behind her apartment there was an odd building that was full of strange residents. There was a man with blonde hair, a kendo mask that was always hanging visibly in the window, and someone often going out to the road with a two-way radio communicating with somebody in the apartment. Takahashi came to expect strange happenings in and around this building, and from these haphazardous occurrences, she was inspired to create the manga Maison Ikkoku. Maison Ikkoku is currently my favorite manga of all time. Whenever I'm talking to a person about manga, this story is always coming up. It is often silly, at times sad, sometimes infuriating, but all in all, wonderful. I love this story of an unlucky guy trying to gain the affections of the woman he loves, all while trying to find his place in the world. So I'm really happy to bring this story to all of you who haven't experienced it yet. With that being said, let's get into it. Welcome to Manga Re's retelling of Maison Ikkoku. Today starts like any other normal day at Maison Ikkoku. We see Godai, a hapless ronin, which here isn't talking about a samurai, but a college-age student who didn't pass their exams and get into university. He's declaring that he's moving out of the place for the third time this month. We briefly see interactions between Godai and the other residents, the shady guy, the sexy tease, and the know-it-all busybody. Their names aren't mentioned yet, and that's to show that they truly are backup characters in someone else's story. But we can clearly see the way that they relate to Godai, and that is to bully him. He's being judged for failing his latest practice exam, being told that he's stupid, and is being said that he only talks about leaving just to get attention. And they wonder why he wants to move out. Godai is headed down the stairs to give notice, for real this time, when someone knocks on the door and steps in. A lady who introduces herself as Kyoko Otanashi walks through the door and says that she is the new apartment manager. The old apartment manager recently quit because he said that the residents were too wild. And yeah, they definitely are. And Godai, who was just about to angrily give notice, let's just say, forgets that he was. And, straight up, I would have forgotten too. I mean, look at her. Anyway, Kyoko tells the residents that she's going to be moving in tomorrow, and they're like, alright. But yeah, Godai, bro is done already. He's on all fours in a full kneel. Kyoko leaves and everyone disperses back to whatever they were doing before. It's here that we learn Shady Guy's name. It's Yotsuya. Godai is in his room getting ready to study when he notices the huge hole in his wall and decides to board it up, trying to get some privacy so that he can hit the books hard. No sooner had he done this than, somehow, the boards are busted out and Yotsuya emerges from the hole. Apparently, this is a tunnel that he dug to connect his room to Godai's so he can randomly enter it anytime he wants. Why, do you ask? Because Godai's room is in between Yotsuya's and Sexy Tease's room. So Yotsuya made a hole in Godai's closet to peep through, which he proceeds to do. At first, Godai tries to resist, but after Yotsuya says that he can see everything, Godai quickly slides over to check out the view. I mean, he is a virile young man after all. Godai remarks that Sexy Tease is wearing the same thing that she was wearing in the hall. But Yotsuya declares that the framing of the peephole gives it, a little something. So Godai has had enough and is about to try to kick Yotsuya out when Yotsuya says that he just remembered that he didn't come in to peep. He wanted to talk with Godai about planning a party for the new manager. Here is the first time that we get to see that Godai is actually a passive-aggressive and really wishy-washy guy, because at first he says that he doesn't have time to go to some party, as if the guy that was just on all fours before this dime a few minutes ago wasn't going to show up to a welcome party for her. Then he says of course he's going to go, when Yotsuya starts to line him out on the guest list, and then finally states that, well, he is going to go, but he has to leave early. This wishy-washiness is a trait that we'll come to expect from, but be infuriated by Godai because of. The next morning, the manager is moving in and Godai and she share a brief greeting. Godai tries to show his manliness by offering to help her move in stuff, but the manager tells him, nah, she's straight. He better get back to studying. And then, as if that wasn't enough to remove the air from his lungs, the knockout blow certainly came when she called out to him and said, I'm sure you'll pass this year. Bro got his cheeks clapped. Moving on, Godai gets back to studying and we see Know-It-All Busybody talking with the manager. By the way, this is the one person in the whole story that I just genuinely cannot stand. I mean, I cannot stand this chick, and I don't think that she ever gets right with me. But anyway. The manager and Know-It-All Busybody are casually chatting, and we notice that Busybody is a single mom, as her young son finds out that the manager has a dog. The manager states that the dog's name is Soichiro, and the little boy comments that this is a weird name for a dog because it's so formal. The manager is diligently cleaning up and Sexy Tease approaches her. This is when we find out that her name is Akemi, and she claims that she needs the manager's help. Godai has been peeping at her through some hole in his room, and together they go to confront Godai. Akemi barges into Godai's room with the manager, and the manager tells Godai that she wants to take a look around. The understandably embarrassed Godai asks for a minute so that he can straighten up a bit, but they ignore him and just waltz right into his closet, seeing the peephole that Yotsuya made in there. Godai tries to explain that he's definitely not peeping on Akemi and shows the other boarded up wall as proof to this fact, but the manager teases him, saying that this just proves that he peeps on men too. Later, the manager gets to work on repairing the hole while Godai is trying to prove his innocence. As if anyone ever listens to a man in this sort of situation. But that aside, she seems to not really care actually. I think she could tell from the beginning that Godai was a lot of things, but not a jerk that would drill a hole in an apartment wall to peep on a woman. Just use the peephole after it was made by someone else, which is totally different. Moving on. While repairing the hole, the manager asks Godai to hand her a nail, and when he does, she casually mentions that she doesn't want to disturb Godai studying and not to mind her. She's saying this while being in a quite interesting position, and Godai is most certainly studying. The manager says, "You're behind, aren't you?" Godai snaps out of his trance and stammers, What? Who's behind?" And the manager, finally realizing what just happened, yells at him saying that she meant behind on his studying. Right after that, Yotsuya, Akemi, and the kid bust into Godai's room, with Yotsuya declaring that a protruding posterior is not an invitation and that Godai shouldn't get any ideas. So yeah, they were just sitting there listening at Godai's door the entire time. All of the residents pile into Godai's room and Yotsuya starts to pop open a bottle. Godai asks why are they all in his room, and Yotsuya says that he told Godai that they were going to have a welcoming party for the manager. But Godai demands to know why the party was happening in his room. Know-it-all Busybody states that it's because Godai has the least amount of stuff, with Akemi adding in that they wouldn't all fit in anyone else's room. Godai tries to state that he has his practice exam in the morning. He's told to feel free to leave early if he needs to. Bruh. The manager, trying to be polite, asks, "Won't this party disturb Godai?" And the response from the others is, maybe. But it's all good because even if they weren't there, he was going to fail his exam anyway. After, everyone toasts to the manager, then the party begins. After a while, Godai goes back to desperately trying to study while the residents, not giving up about him, keep partying in his room. The manager says that it must be really hard for Godai to study like this, and Akemi tells her it don't matter. Godai will have a good excuse when he fails again. To add insult to injury, she states it must be pretty fire to always have someone else to blame for his failures. Oh my gosh. I can't with these people. Anyway, Godai has had enough and climbs into his closet. Note that the manager the entire time has been calling Godai Ronin like the other residents. And we see a bit of a backbone here in this fed up state where he tells her to please stop calling him that. And then he slams his closet door. To this, the other residents, they just laugh and make more fun of him. Yeah, these are horrible human beings. The manager, realizing that they've all gone too far, states that Godai's feelings are really hurt, and that only makes them ramp up the abuse. Akemi states that Godai usually comes back out in 5 minutes, but he didn't do that this time, and the manager says of course he's not coming out because of the crap that they said is really hateful, and he's hurt. But a little bit later, Yotsuya starts to call out, "Oh snap! The manager has become a striptease." And Akemi joins in and says, "Oh, your body is so crazy, I'm jealous." Notice here that know-it-all Busybody is too lit to even join into the heckling. She's over here in her own world, just going ham, dancing, while her son is desperately trying to get her to calm down. Godai, hearing all of this, can't help himself, and the homie cracks the door, you know what I'm saying, just a little bit, and peeps out just in case, and he ain't trying to miss the goods if they out there. And that's when they got him. Yotsuya and Akemi pin him to the floor, expose him, bro, saying that this is the type of man that he is and the manager shouldn't waste her sympathy on him. Godai is mad at himself for falling for their tricks, and the manager finally loses a bit of faith in Godai's goodness. And this is where we're going to end it. So what'd you think? Tell me down in the comment section below. Will Godai fail his practice exam again? Will the manager ever believe in his goodness again after feeling like she got duped? Let's find out more in the next chapter of Maison Ikkoku. Please keep in mind that this is just a retelling of this amazing manga. This is not meant to be a replacement for you reading for yourself. So if you really enjoyed what you just heard, then I recommend that you go buy or read the manga on viz.com. Not sponsored, by the way, but that's how I read it. It's a really reasonable subscription price, and you can read this manga and a whole lot of other amazing manga too. Making manga is an incredibly difficult undertaking. I can't even imagine just making these small YouTube videos has taken so much work and time and effort. I want to make sure that we all continue to support the creators and the industry as a whole. Thank you. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the content that we're putting out. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace.